Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Council of Trent, and tonight we're looking at this piece of junk. As you can see, this is the YEET Cannon from Hi-Point. If you're like most people, you might not know what YEET means. Like what on earth is that? Is that like some kind of slur or something? I mean, or is it like slang for bullets? No. Apparently, yeet is supposed to be a dance? I'm not very familiar with it. All I know is that yeet is often sort of a slang term for being denied something, or throwing something, or doing something that is like fast and random and energetic. It's often quite comedic stuff. However, I don't blame you for not being able to keep up with meme culture. I mean, I'm not keeping up with it much at all either. I think some of it's really stupid. It's kind of hard to explain why my name is Jeff, or damn, Daniel, or really,
bruh.
So, why did Hi-Point name their gun after a meme? This thing feels like a brick, so maybe I want to throw it, yeet it, so to speak, yeet it into the next window. Or maybe it's yeet in the idea that, yeah, I'm throwing lead rocks at you at like 900 feet per second. I don't know. But anyway, they called it the YEET Cannon. And they did so because of an online poll. Basically, Hi-Point told anyone on the internet, hey guys, you get to name our next gun. So everyone tended to vote for the YEET Cannon. And now we have this. Why, oh why, Hi-Point? Why did you do that? If you were to ask someone from Hi-Point, they would probably say that they care about their customers, and they wanted to please their fan base by following through with their promise. So they say they want to please their customers. Is that, like, true? To find out, of course, we had to shoot this thing. I brought this gun over to my friend's house. My friend's name is Al, like Al Capone. And for reference, I brought a second gun. The other gun that I brought with me is a Smith & Wesson Shield, 9mm. Both of these guns are relatively comparable. They're both 9mm. They both have 8-round capacity. And they're both concealed carry guns, though I would argue that the Smith & Wesson is a far better concealed carry gun. And all you gotta do is to look at the darn things to see why. If you were to just pick these guns up without looking at them, you would instantly realize that one of them feels like it's made out of moonstone, carved by the proud elves of Tamriel. And the other one feels like it's made of depleted uranium. Man alive. It's heavy. The YEET Cannon is very, very heavy, while the Smith & Wesson is light and very easy to maneuver and manhandle. So, why does it have to be so heavy? Well, the YEET Cannon has to have a big slide. The big, heavy steel slide. Why is that? Well, allow me to demonstrate with the Smith & Wesson. When you shoot this gun, the powder in the cartridge ignites, the bullet goes down the barrel. As the bullet is going down the barrel, the slide starts to move backwards. They move back together for a short ways, both the barrel and the slide. See, just take a close look at that barrel. You see how the barrel moves backwards and then tilts downwards. Thus, the muzzle cocks upwards. That might seem awfully strange to someone who isn't familiar with how these tilting barrel designs work. The reason it does that is to make it easier to load the next cartridge from the magazine. The slide, when it's moving backwards, it's pushing against a spring. That would be located up here. So now the spring pushes the slide forwards. As it does, it picks up a new cartridge from the magazine, loads it into the chamber, and now the gun is ready to fire again. So that is how a real gun works. So now, let's talk about the Hi-Point. You see, the Hi-Point does not have that same mechanism where the barrel and the slide stays together. Instead, look real close. They instantly separate from each other. You pull the trigger, gun goes boom, bullet goes out the barrel, and the slide instantly separates from the barrel. Instantly. So why is that a bad thing? Well, that means that the cartridge is still exploding before the bullet's all the way out the barrel. Do you want an explosion happening no more than, say, 2 or 3 feet from your face? So, what do they do to solve that problem? They make the slide very big and heavy. If you remember anything of high school physics, then you would remember Newton's second law. Force equals mass times acceleration. So, if you solve for acceleration, you want your acceleration to be minimal. Well, if you know the force pushing back, which you do because Newton's third law, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You know that force, then all you have to do is adjust the mass. Increasing the mass reduces the acceleration, and thus you slow down the rate at which the slide opens. That's all just nerd speak to say this gun has to be heavy in order to stay safe. However, that does not excuse the fact that this gun is big and bulky and difficult to use. Consider the fact that when you shoot the gun, you have a big mass that goes backwards towards your hand. Bam! That's a lot of weight. You would think that the recoil is going to be huge. It's going to hurt your hand. However, you also have to consider the fact that this gun should be pretty doggone reliable. After all, it has like 2 moving parts. The striker and the frame itself. Like the barrel doesn't move. That's not just a boon for reliability, that's a boon for accuracy. Think about guns like revolvers. People love revolvers because the barrels are fixed. They can be laser pointer accurate. Maybe that's an advantage over the Smith & Wesson. The only real way to determine for sure if this is a decent gun or not is to actually shoot the thing. And we did. My friend Al, or maybe I should say Al Capone, he was of the opinion that the YEET Cannon would be an absolutely horrible, horrific gun that you should never touch with a 10-foot pole being held by somebody else. However, I was of the opinion that it's more complicated than that. After all, these two guns have quite a few similarities. They're probably not too different to actually shoot. Was the hypothesis true? When Al and I both shot these guns, we found it actually surprisingly difficult to tell the difference between the two.
Alright, ready when you are. Alright, now you gotta try this one for reference. Yep, you're ready to fire. It really isn't very different.
No.
Nice. The paint just blew up.
See if I hit that can.
Alright. Aw. Want to finish off the mag?
Sure. Let's see how well this guy does.
Yeah. You should be good for at least one more. Huh. Maybe two more. Oh, it didn't lock back on an empty mag.
Naughty, naughty.
To be fair, that was the first mag, like literally.
Ever.
So it's not even broken yet.
In fact, I resorted to dual wielding, just so I could tell one gun from the other. The results were kind of surprising. They shot basically exactly the same. They both recoiled about the same. Neither one was especially uncomfortable to shoot. Really, the only difference between the two guns, as far as I could tell, was the weight. Because I could still feel one was heavier than the other. That was it. But of course, shooting the gun is not the whole story. Say I just fired my last shot, and the slide locked open. Okay. So I take a mag out, put a fresh mag in. Now what? There's no lever, no button or anything on the outside to let me drop the slide. I suppose it is best practice to use your hand to actually load the next cartridge. Okay, having the lever is just quicker. I like using the lever. Maybe that's not best practice, but I'm not exactly a tactical guru, I guess. I like using the button. It's there, I'm gonna use it. This gun doesn't have it, and that's annoying. Something else that's annoying. The safety locks the slide into place. So if I have the safety on, as it is right now, I cannot pull the slide back. It locks it into place. Why? Is this for, like, if you have young children in the house and you want to just leave your gun out somewhere? You just want to leave it out somewhere with a loaded magazine but no round in the chamber? Keep the safety locked so that even if a kid were to grab it and try pulling the trigger, nothing would happen? It seems finicky. Okay, maybe it's a safety thing. This gun, by the way, it also has a magazine safety. So I take the magazine out, I try pulling the trigger, nothing happens. The mag actually has to be in. It doesn't have to be in all the way, but the mag actually has to be in for it to fire. Listen. Again, if I take the mag out, that won't happen. So, this gun has like 3 forms of safety. Maybe that's a good thing? I don't really know. I don't have kids in my house. But maybe if you do, maybe that'll be something important for you. I think it's finicky and it's kind of dumb. Speaking about finicky, let's talk about how this thing comes apart. On any normal semi-automatic handgun, disassembly is really quite slick and easy. This Smith & Wesson, once again, it's a Browning-style tilting barrel design. So all you gotta do is take the mag out, lock the slide to the rear, rotate the disassembly lever forwards, let the slide go down, and now you have a couple options. You can either pull the trigger, as long as you make sure it's empty, or there's a little lever inside the gun, just underneath the ejector. It will simply let you drop the slide, and it'll just go right off the gun. However, I'm lazy. I'm just going to pull the trigger, and now the gun is apart. With 2 other little steps, now I've removed the barrel, the recoil spring, from the slide assembly. And that's as far as I need to take the gun down in order to clean it. Reassembly is just as easy. Put the barrel in, put in the recoil spring, making sure that the plunger is facing the right way, put the slide onto the frame, lock it back, rotate the disassembly lever back to its normal position, and drop the slide, and you're good to go. So that's how a Smith & Wesson comes apart. What about the YEET Cannon? Well, for starters, you have to lock the slide to the rearward position. At that point, you will expose a pin. This pin is in the safety notch. That pin has to be knocked out with a punch. So you have to have a little hammer and a little punch to knock that pin out, and then the whole slide will just come right off. You just pull up on the back of the slide, and then just pull it off the front of the gun. The recoil spring will come out with it. It's a simple design. It only comes apart into 4 pieces, just like the Smith does. However, this pin can be very easily lost. If I was to be the one to design a gun like this, I would ask, why not make that pin captive somehow? Or maybe make it so you could push a button or move a lever out of the way instead of pushing a pin out. Because losing small parts will make this gun inoperable. I would much rather not lose that pin. Anyway, that's how it disassembles. To reassemble it, you basically do all the same steps in reverse. You put on the slide with the recoil spring, you lock it all the way back to the rearward position, tap that pin back into place, and you're good to go. It's not a great disassembly because I actually need a tool to field strip this thing. Most other guns that I have are toolless. You don't need any tools, you just need to manipulate the gun a little bit, pulling the slide back, moving the lever down, and just pulling the slide off. This gun requires a tool. Only one other gun I own requires a tool. It's rare that guns require tools in order to field strip. That's highly inconvenient, and it's a major turnoff. They don't want to have to do that. They don't want to have to buy a hammer and some punches just to work on their gun. So this probably isn't a good gun for someone who doesn't already know what they're doing. That being said, if you neglected to clean this thing, I imagine it would keep running just fine because, like I said before, this thing has like 2 parts that move. 2 moving parts. A gun as simple as sin cannot possibly fail. So, in conclusion, the YEET Cannon shoots approximately as well as a Smith & Wesson Shield, in my experience. That being said, the controls are kind of finicky, and disassembly is rather inconvenient. However, here's an important thing to know. The YEET Cannon is a remarkably affordable gun. You can buy one of these things brand new for $200. Brand new! To put that in perspective, my Smith & Wesson Shield cost me $400. And that was like 5 years ago. Okay? So I can afford 2 YEET Cannons or 1 Smith & Wesson Shield. Are 2 kind of meh guns better than 1? I would argue yes. Final point about the gun. This gun is not made for everybody. If you favor things that are American made, if you're willing to laugh at this little joke, and if you have appropriate expectations for a gun that only costs you $200, then maybe you would enjoy this thing. I sure enjoy it. Maybe I'm just more internet savvy than other people that I know. Maybe I can just appreciate the joke. But I can tell you one thing. I, for one, appreciate Hi-Point. A company that's willing to laugh at themselves a little bit. They said, hey guys, you get to name our next gun. So Hi-Point followed through. These people really do appreciate their customers, and that is something that I just cannot dislike. Even if their gun is kinda meh, they care about their customers. So good on you, Hi-Point. Your gun might not be worth a whole lot of money, it might not be the best quality, but you know what? The joke was pretty good quality. Yeet is often used to describe being denied something. So I can just imagine someone going to Hi-Point and saying, hey, I want a high quality firearm. Then they give them this. He goes to the firing range and it goes So bravo, Hi-Point. Bravo for being willing to laugh at yourself a little bit. And bravo for keeping your promise. If you're willing to laugh along with me, then buy this frickin' thing. Anyway, that concludes my review, I guess, of the Hi-Point YEET Cannon. I hope y'all enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.